Halloween season is here. Spooky time on Forest Tales channel. Run while you can. Mike was too young for that shit. He was devastated and desperate, and if it wasn't enough, he was terrified. His family and others from Tandina decided to leave the country fearing the consequences of this alliance bullshit. His father was sure there was going to be a war and disposable people like them were going to be in the front. Their family were survivors and refugees from Savra, living in very poor conditions in the north of the country and relying on their own subsistence and assistance programs from Tandina to survive. Some families in the group were like them, but others were different kinds of people. Most from Tandina indeed, but not all. Gangsters and mercenaries, people that were used to surviving through illegal ways that were now being recruited for Tandina's military. They were used to freedom, to being out of standards, and the idea of serving wasn't pleasant. Good news, we have strong people with guns. Bad news, they are scary. They were leading the group and charged a considerable amount of money to cross people through the west to Carissa territory, in the south. They were migrating little by little and making profit from it. Simple, if they had any idea of what they were doing. One thing is to be used to violence in the cities, against people. But it was very different to survive in a wide, abandoned and resourceless expanse of land containing the most dangerous animals, and humans, on the planet. The survivors of madman disease had different types of mutations, but one thing in common, they were maniacs. The virus effect on the brain was devastating, and if a survivor was harmless, was already in Tandina being studied in a lab or dying from secondary infections. Mike's family had a little bit of both. His family lasted 4.5 days in the wild of Savra, and right now, Mike was alone in the world, scared, and hiding behind 2 mercenaries. Did they want to help or protect him? No. But they were protecting this girl, Lara, that was crossing the west alone and was welcomed by Mike's mother to their small group to eat and rest. Lara's family was already in Carissa, waiting for her to continue their path to their new home. Her father was a well-known drug dealer in Tandina and was one of the first to be forcibly recruited, so her older brothers, already in the crime scenario, ran away with their mother, leaving Lara behind in her boarding school. Her godfather made it happen her transport with some of his own men to make sure she would be safe, since Lara was undesirable by the family for being daughter of her father's beloved affair, not legit wife, and still his favorite child. And because Lara was taken in by his family, she was now protecting Mike with her life. But she was only 15, and that meant those gangsters' life. They were terrified, and Lara couldn't stop crying, even speaking calmly with everyone else and looking balanced, and giving orders when her idea was more strategically effective than what the guys were doing. They were surrounded by a pack of mutant animals, hyenas as they could see, and one man was already taken down while they were running. He shot, and the noise attracted more animals to where they were. So he was ripped apart very fast. The silence in that land was unbearable, and if you heard any noise, very likely there was an animal attack. Mike felt a hand in his back and jumped, luckily far from the hit he was going to take. There were 2 men and 1 woman behind him, all variants. The woman was trying to touch him while one of the men was hitting the air towards them with a branch. The last was laughing and randomly walking around. Lara grabbed the woman by the hair and pushed her towards the hyenas. The woman yelled, calling attention of the animals and being bitten by the first one. The laughing man started to walk in her direction, laughing ever louder and distracting some more animals, but the one with a branch was determined to hit Mike. Mike grabbed the branch and pulled, throwing it far in the direction of the hyena, and the human variant ran to the branch, instigating the pack that attacked him all at once. The men took Lara, that grabbed Mike's hand, and ran to the entrance of an abandoned subway station that was shut with iron bars. They climbed and jumped to the other side, but one of the animals that chased them bit the leg of one of them, Jonas, and pulled him down, but he broke free and jumped after them. They went down to the tunnels and sat down to check Jonas's leg. Donnie, his partner, made an improvised bandage, and they started walking to the next station through the trails. While they were walking, they noticed a disgusting smell coming from there, of death and rottenness, and through some daylight that was leaking from the sidewalk vents they noticed the floor was covered with excrement and remains. They heard from far, someone speaking. They couldn't tell if there was another survivor from their group or one of the human variants, since some of them still can speak, so they hurried to get out of there. While they were approaching the light by the end of the tunnel, the voice was getting louder and closer. They saw the platform of the next station, and with the assistance of Donnie and Mike, Jonas started to walk faster, and they could finally identify the echo they heard as only 2 words: fresh blood. "This is bad," Donnie said. Lara and Mike climbed the platform and held Jonas' hands to pull him, while Donnie held his knees to push him up, and while he was with the body stretched between them, a dark silhouette came from the shadow and jumped over Jonas' ribs, knocking him to the ground and biting his neck and chewing, while Jonas gurgled with his own blood. The thing was a monkey, tall enough for them to believe it was a gorilla, but its face resembled a human, or something between a chimpanzee and a man. Donnie tried to jump over the platform as well, but the monkey turned to them and continued chewing, so he stopped for a second. Then the monkey went back to Jonas to grab another bite of his flesh, this time from the cheeks, and Donnie moved, climbing the platform, while Lara and Mike ran to the stairs to get out of the station. The monkey turned back at them, and they stopped again, holding their positions. The monkey let Jonas' body slowly fall on the floor, and with a weird face, showing his teeth as if it was a smile, the animal opened his mouth wide and grunting a sound like "run." They started moving again as fast as they could, but Mike heard Donnie's screams almost immediately. Lara pulled Mike to his left, to get into a hole in the wall, and for a confused second Mike hesitated, so Lara whispered, "It's blocked," pointing at the exit. There was concrete as if a building collapsed, closing the passage. Their only way of not being cornered by that creepy monkey was through that broken wall. Lara could pass easily, but Mike almost couldn't escape, it was too tight. They crawled to the other side and the monkey got stuck in the entrance. It tried to pass, but he was too big to cross. Mike and Lara held hands and started running through a dark hallway parallel to the tracks. It was clear that the monkey was running on the tracks by their side by the noise, probably following until it could find a way to catch them. They saw an open path to the station where they came from, but by the end of the hallway the wall only had railings as the concrete had fallen apart. So, the monkey started to run faster to go around and catch them on the way out. Mike stopped and turned, yelling at Lara to run back again, but before they could move, a male hand grabbed Lara's arm and pulled her to a lateral corridor that was hidden by the shadows. They ran through the corridor in complete darkness, Lara holding both the unknown man and Mike's hands, making a bridge. They could hear the monkey coming from behind them, and Mike believed for a moment that it was going to be his end. But by the end of the hall, a small group of Tandina soldiers were waiting in front of a doorstep, covered with improvised steel on both sides. The soldier pulled them towards the entrance, and they ran to the inside, followed by the soldiers and their savior at last, closing the reinforced door exactly when the monkey became visible in the hallway. "What you kids are doing here, alone?" the soldier said. "Hi Mr. Hero, I am Lara, and this is Mike. The plan was pretty much not to die, and we weren't alone until everybody died." Mike stared at her, still impressed with how cold Lara could be sometimes, but also amazed that she could speak after all the running. He felt like he could pass out any moment by then. Mr. Hero laughed out loud unintentionally and introduced himself. His name was Alex, and they were deserters from Tandina that were trying to rescue as many people as possible from the crossing of Savra to join them in this rebellion movement that was gaining power in the south. They were in a shed, and the soldiers were refueling to continue their trip, when they heard the screams and went there to verify, finally rescuing them. Until nowadays, whenever Lara is feeling sassy and wants to annoy Alex during their missions for the rebels, she calls him Mr. Hero. Follow at Forest the Storyteller in Instagram, YouTube and TikTok for more. Check out our website to read more tales. www.forestplumptales.com